Good morning, everybody. So today I just want to talk to you about a couple of things going into this week's assignments. So the first thing I want to go over is the second theme that we mentioned on survival, because during the training session, one of the head people kind of talked about survival a bit, because she had said, yeah, you're training with these weapons, you're training with, to see your agility, your speed, all of that. But she also mentioned that most of the contestants are going to die because they can't survive in the wilderness the way that it is. They'll either freeze to death or they'll starve to death. And, so that obviously talks directly to this idea of survival. So as you're watching, I want you to really think about the natural elements in terms of survival, okay? So when we're looking at this, when we talk about natural elements, warmth, right? Food, water, is there going to be any type of extreme weather that they're going to have to deal with? So when we're thinking about survival, because, all these teenagers, they're initially just looking and training with what weapons they can use to try to kill each other and to save their own lives. But she says, you really have to pay attention to this element as well. So the reason why I wanted to mention this is because your assignment for this week is going to be, yes, talking about the theme of survival, but it's also going to be the conflicts, because obviously as the games get underway, there's going to be a lot of conflicts, and I'm not asking you to identify every single one of them, but one of those elements is man versus nature. So when you're looking at your different conflicts, man versus nature, this idea of survival is definitely going to come into play. Now we have man versus man. So obviously, even though it says man, you know that it could be a woman. You also know that when we're talking about our conflicts, right, when we're mentioning our conflicts, you're going to see a lot of external, obviously, right? So because of the fighting and the nature of this whole idea. But remember, external can be two different things. It can be this idea of physically fighting, or verbally. Verbally, remember, is just words back and forth. Both of those are external conflicts. So when it's man versus man, it can be female or male, it doesn't matter. Man versus self. Okay? Now, with this one, when they're trying to survive, when they're trying to, stay alive and everything else, there's going to be times where they have to make these really tough decisions about what they want to do, where they should go, if they should hide, what should go on. Anytime they're making a difficult decision that'll impact, furthering the story, that would be a man versus self. Okay? That's our internal conflict. Okay? Then we have man versus nature. Now, man versus nature is where these idea of the natural survival comes in. Okay? Is there a terrible storm that they have to protect themselves from? Does the temperatures drop where they have to now figure out how to stay warm? Is there a huge fire that they're going to have to either extinguish or just get away from? Anything natural that they're now fighting against or dealing with in order to survive becomes a man versus nature idea. And then we have man versus society. Now, the man versus society is this idea of fighting this dystopia, right? So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail with that one in another mini lesson, but I want you thinking about when we talk about man versus society, this is when a character decides to act out against what society is telling them or telling him or her that they should be doing. So in this case, with this storyline, society is telling these teenagers that it is now time for you to fight each other to the death. Now, everything in human nature is to not kill another human, right? Unless they are, unless you're protecting yourself, you're told to save each other, to help one another. And now this society is telling these kids that you have to fight to the death. You have to kill these kids. And if you looked at the lineup of kids that were there before, some are very young. So that's going to be a very difficult thing. So when we talk about man versus society, it's when a character steps up to go against what society is telling them they're supposed to do. So this week, you're going to be doing something with survival, and the assignment is going to be on the conflicts. So, you're going to have to come up with an example of each one. All right. Have a lovely day. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.